Well, on to the next project. This time I got the 1600 up here turning it apart. I started a little later 'cause getting everything tore off was kind of monotonous and boring, and didn't figure it was worth taking video because it was just turning wrenches. But now I'm starting to get into the meat and tater stuff. This whole thing started out, I need to replace the right hand seal in the cross shaft for the draft control because it started leaking 80-90, and in order to get to that shaft you got to pull the hydraulic cover off, or the whole hydraulic unit, sorry. And while I was in there, there's a second problem I'm going to fix. This thing's, it did it a little bit when we first got it, but the more I used it, the worse it got. If you let the tractor sit, the 3-point would drift down, and then if you were, like when I had the cultivator hanging on it, if you put any sort of weight on it, about every 5 minutes it'd drift down and pick back up. So that tells me one of two things: either the seals are out in the 3-point piston and the oil's blowing past, or there's O-rings out in the draft control servo, which controls the cylinder, and there's oil blowing past one of those. Before I had everything tore apart, I stuck a gauge in the remotes and checked the pump pressure, and even in an idle it was going all the way up to relief pressure, which is 1,750 psi. So that tells me that the pump should be good. Hopefully, I gotta get it out and get it tore apart, and hopefully there's nothing wrong with it. I could just order the seals that go in the center section, put it back together, and we'll be good. Otherwise, I checked on the price, and the pump's $450 plus whatever, or plus the cost of the drive pinion. So hopefully I don't gotta blow $450. So I got the rear end drained down, the hydraulic oil is hopefully drained all the way out. I use a side plug. Book says to stick a hose in the remote and pump the oil out, and I guess they know what you're talking about, but to me there's just something fundamentally wrong about running a hydraulic pump out of oil, so I didn't do it that way. So seat's off, 3-point arms, drawbar I took off just to get it out of the way, platform, seat, remote couplers, all that good stuff. And I'm also going to take this thing off in probably 2 pieces. I'll take the top cover off and then take the whole unit, or take the rest of the unit off, just to reduce the weight and make it a little easier to handle. So what was I doing? Oh yeah. Oh, and I found out while I got this thing apart, I might want to put seals in the rock shaft because it looks like this one's been leaking. So, and I'm probably going to split this up into probably 3 different videos. One finishing up the tear down here, one of doing the rebuild on the cylinder and the servo and putting the seals in it, and then probably one of putting it back together. Otherwise this is probably going to get very long, and I'm thinking I won't have it back together until sometime next week, because once I get everything tore apart, I'm probably going to have to order a second round of parts. I already ordered the gaskets for the top cover, and then in between the pan and the transmission, seals for the lower, for the draft control shaft, the piston seals. We got O-ring kits for the servo. So I didn't bother ordering any of them. But when I get it apart, I gotta figure out what kind of condition the pump's in, and if the pump's good, order the I can't remember what the heck they call it. It's not an actual seal. It's only a half. But it's a little kind of figure-8 shaped rubber ring, and then a plastic piece that they call a backup that rubber piece fits inside of, and then a diaphragm and something else in there, plus the seals for the rock shaft and whatever the heck else I end up finding wrong with it. And we've never actually been into the transmission on this, so hopefully I don't pull the top cover off and get a big surprise. Naturally we put all new fluids in when we got it, but we never had the cover off to look inside the transmission. So hopefully I don't pull this thing off and it ends up looking like the 1800. And in the video I was working on the 1800, one of you mentioned the radio station I was listening to. That's not actually a radio station. Our country radio stations around here are so crappy that I can't stand to listen to them anymore, so all they do is play the same top 20 songs over and over and over and over. So I bring my computer out here and play Pandora. Right now I got it on C.W. McCall. I think the other day I was listening to, when I was working on 1800, I think I had Frank Foster, which, if you guys have never heard of him, I highly recommend looking him up. He's a Louisiana oil rig worker. He still works on the rigs, but he sings country music, and he's pretty darn good. He's got some good songs. I'll stick this over here. There's going to be a pile of old parts by the time I get done tearing this thing down. Well, gears look good. Always a good sign. Another reason for taking this top cover off first is it's a whole lot easier to get off while it's still on the tractor. There's this little lip back here that's just right to grab onto with a porta power. And you press off power takeoff and it pops loose. Nothing a little persuasion won't fix. And then this top part is the valve body for your remotes. That's what these are, is for the remote valves. The levers hook over these dowel pins. And I have had this top cover off once before, because when we first got it, the seals for the remote levers leaked like a sieve, like more than just a drip. The oil almost ran out, and so we naturally got that taken care of right away, because that would have been, hydraulic oil ain't cheap. So here's the servo. It's bolted to the cylinder. Servo's got to come out the top. Actually, no, cylinder. The cylinder and the servo will come out in one piece, but you still got to take the top cover off to get the servo unhooked, which I didn't want to do, but with all the other stuff I ended up having to do anyway. It ain't gonna cost me that much more time just to go through and do it right and not have to pull this thing off again. So get the gasket taken off, get these out of here. These pieces actually come off. All they are is a tube with an O-ring on either side, and that's what allows oil to pass in between the hydraulic reservoir itself and the valve body. All the piping is actually drilled into all the plumbing is drilled into the casting. So get them pulled out and out of the way, and we'll keep going. I just learned a lesson. Next time you think you're smarter than the book, you're wrong. Got the top cover off, and there was still probably better part of 3/4 of a gallon of hydraulic fluid left in there. I had to get all sucked out. Otherwise, there would have been one heck of a mess. I probably would have known that if I'd have been here when Dad took the back of the 1800 apart, but I was down at school and he had all that stuff done and ready to go before I got home, so I never even saw how the heck he did it. I guess what I should have done was called him and asked, but he's out in Connecticut right now doing an install on a machine. So I'm on my own here. And I tell you what, the guy who designed that draft control linkage is must be in a rubber room somewhere. I mean, I understand how it works, but trying to figure out all the dimensions and the angles and stuff to make it work like it does. They got here's the link coming in off the lower links. That's working against a spring to keep it from chattering. That comes up, and then there's a parallel link, or there's a link right here that gets feedback off the position of the rock shaft that comes over and goes into this arm right here, which is hooked into the 3-point actuation lever and the servo valve, which lifts and lowers the 3-point. So this, you set your position, and then depending on the input from the lower shaft and the position of this, it changes the length, or doesn't change the length, but it changes the position of this, which rocks that back and forth, which lifts and lowers the 3-point. So it's kind of cool how it works, but holy crap, that must have... There's a reason I'm not going to school being an engineer. And I realize I probably just explained that really fast and nobody's going to know what the heck I just said, but... Alright, so I got all the bolts out of it and I got it strung up here on the forklift. Right now my goal is just get it to pop loose from the transmission, and then I gotta sling it so I can pick it up and get it off. Oop, that was easier than I thought. Alright, I gotta get this thing rigged up to pick, and we'll get it off there and get it sitting on the stand. Hung up on them lines, and I need to get that. See how that does. Really, probably should have 2 people for this, but I ain't got 2 people, so we gotta make do with what we got. Crap. Need to get the rear end to pick up sooner so I can sneak it up out of there. See if I go around. Alright, I'm gonna figure this situation out. Well, it's all apart and up on the stand. Not really a whole lot to tell about it yet till we get it apart and figure out exactly what the issue is, but and then as far as the transmission goes, that gear and bull pinion looks pretty good. This one, on the other hand, not so much. Which I can kind of understand, because the way this drawbar looks, the hole on it is all wallered out. So this tractor had its guts pulled out when it was new. My guess is it was probably somebody's main work tractor for a long time, and that's what caused that. So, but for what it is and for what it's going to do for the rest of its life, chances are we're probably just going to leave it, because it's still not coming anywhere near as bad as what that 1800 was. So, I'll talk to Dad and see what he thinks about it, but if I had to guess, we're probably just going to leave it. Especially since all it's really going to ever do for the rest of its life is run a loader and maybe the occasional fertilizer spreading and cultivating. Nothing really strenuous. But I think I'm going to call it quits for tonight, and we'll get back at it tomorrow. So I will get back to you when I start tearing that apart.